The Zenithian starship glided silently through Earth's upper atmosphere, its advanced cloaking systems making it invisible to human detection. Queen Ta stood on the observation deck, her tall, slender form wrapped in ceremonial robes that shimmered with embedded technology. Her silver eyes studied the blue planet below with scientific curiosity. "Your Majesty, I must again express King Jun's concerns about this expedition," said Commander Min, bowing deeply. "Earth has been classified as a primitive development zone. The humans have barely achieved basic space travel." Queen Ta turned from the viewport, her expression firm. "I am aware of my husband's concerns, Commander. However, our preliminary scans show biological adaptations in Earth species that contradict our evolutionary models. This warrants direct observation." Commander Min nodded reluctantly. "The research shuttle is prepared. We've installed additional safety protocols as you requested." Minutes later, Queen Ta sat in the shuttle's command chair as it detached from the mothership. She felt a rare excitement. Direct field research was uncommon for Zenithian royalty, but she had been a scientist before becoming queen. The shuttle descended smoothly at first. Earth's atmosphere glowed around the small craft as it cut through clouds. Then the control panel flickered unexpectedly. "System malfunction detected," the shuttle's computer announced calmly. "Navigation compromised." Queen Ta's fingers moved rapidly over the controls. "Engage backup systems." Backup systems unresponsive. The shuttle lurched violently. Smoke began to fill the cabin as the craft spun out of control. Through the viewport, Queen Ta saw the green expanse of forest rushing toward her. She activated the emergency beacon seconds before impact. In his small cabin deep in the Canadian wilderness, Park Ranger Han looked up from his coffee as a thunder-like boom echoed through the trees. He rushed outside and spotted smoke rising from the forest about 2 kilometers away. Han grabbed his emergency pack and headed toward the crash site immediately. Han moved quickly through the dense woods, following the smoke trail. After 20 minutes of hiking, he reached a small clearing that hadn't existed yesterday. Trees were flattened in a circular pattern around a strange metal object, unlike any aircraft Han had ever seen. The object was partly buried in the ground, its unusual silver-blue material still intact despite the crash. "Hello? Anyone there?" Han called out, approaching cautiously. When no response came, he circled the craft, looking for an entry point. He found what appeared to be a hatch on the side of the craft that had been forced open by the impact. Han peered inside and saw something that made him freeze momentarily. A humanoid figure with silvery skin and white hair was slumped over a control panel, blue liquid seeping from several wounds. Han's military medical training kicked in. He climbed carefully into the damaged craft and assessed the situation. The being was female in appearance, but clearly not human. Her skin had a metallic quality, and her facial features were delicate but distinctly alien. "Don't worry, I'm here to help," Han said softly, knowing she probably couldn't understand him. He checked for a pulse, finding an unusual rhythm but definitely signs of life. The alien's eyes fluttered open. Silver irises with no visible pupils focused on Han. She tried to speak, but only a strange musical language emerged before she winced in pain. Han noticed a small device on her wrist. When he accidentally touched it, it projected symbols in the air that rapidly changed to English letters. Translator initializing. The floating text read, "Emergency power, 2 hours remaining." "Can you understand me now?" Han asked. The alien's fingers moved weakly over the device. The floating text changed. "Yes. Who are you?" "My name is Han. I'm a park ranger. You've crashed in a forest on Earth. I am Ta, Queen of the Zenithian Empire." The text paused as she struggled to stay conscious. "Need medical. Different biology. Help me." Han carefully assessed her injuries. The blue fluid seemed to be her blood, and she had several deep lacerations and possibly internal injuries. "I need to move you to somewhere safer. My cabin isn't far. Can I carry you?" Queen Ta nodded weakly. Han gently lifted her from the craft, surprised by how light she was despite being tall. Her skin felt cool to the touch, almost metallic. As he carried her through the forest, a small object on her collar blinked steadily, an emergency beacon sending its signal into space. Somewhere above Earth, that signal reached the Zenithian mothership, where King Jum received the news with horror. His queen was stranded on a primitive world, injured and alone. Back on Earth, Han looked down at the alien queen in his arms. Her silver eyes met his, filled with pain but also curiosity. This was just the beginning of something neither of them could possibly predict. The small cabin glowed with firelight as Han carefully changed the bandages on Queen Tae's arm. 3 days had passed since the crash. Outside, snow fell heavily in the Canadian wilderness, blanketing the forest in white. The alien queen watched Han's movements with silver eyes that missed nothing. "Your medical techniques are primitive," she said through her translator device, which Han had managed to recharge using a modified solar panel. "But effective." Han smiled slightly as he applied a mixture of earth medicines and compounds Ta had instructed him to find in her damaged medical kit. "Sometimes old methods work just fine. How does it feel now?" "The pain is less," she admitted, flexing her slender fingers. The blue veins beneath her silvery skin pulsed visibly. "My people would be shocked to see their queen treated with plant extracts and manual stitching." Han looked at the neat row of stitches he had placed on her forearm. "Well, your people aren't here right now. We work with what we have." Queen Ta shifted on the makeshift bed Han had constructed for her. The regular human mattress had proven painful for her unusual bone structure, so he had built a suspended hammock-like bed that distributed her weight more comfortably. "You adapted quickly to my needs," she observed. "Most Zenithians would struggle without their technology to solve problems." Han stoked the fire, adding another log. He had banked it higher than usual, noting how Tai seemed to thrive in temperatures that made him sweat. "Humans have been solving problems without fancy tech for thousands of years. We're good at making do." The cabin's radio crackled with static. Han adjusted it, listening to the weather report. "Storm's getting worse. We'll be snowed in for at least 3 days." "Is that bad?" Tai asked, sitting up straighter. "Not really. I'm well stocked for winter." Han gestured to the shelves of preserved food, medical supplies, and equipment. "I prepare for isolation out here. It's part of the job." Tai struggled to stand up, her tall frame still unsteady from her injuries. Han quickly moved to help her, letting her lean on his shoulder as she took her first steps since the crash. "You do not fear me," she stated as they slowly walked around the small cabin. "Most humans would be terrified of an alien." Han considered this. "I've seen enough in my life to know that different doesn't mean dangerous. You needed help. That's all that mattered." As they reached the window, Ta gasped softly. The snowfall had increased, creating a swirling white curtain outside. She placed a 6-fingered hand against the cold glass. "My world has no weather like this," she said quietly. "We control all environmental conditions. Nothing is left to chance." "Sounds boring," Han replied, helping her back to her bed. "Sometimes the unexpected makes life interesting." That night, as the temperature dropped further, the cabin's heating system struggled against the intense cold. Han woke to find Tai shivering violently despite the extra blankets he had provided. "Your body temperature is dropping too fast," he said, checking her pulse. "Your metabolism isn't adapted to this climate." Ta's silver skin had taken on a blue tinge. "Zenithians require stable temperatures. Our bodies don't adjust well to extremes." Han fought quickly. He gathered heated stones from around the fireplace, wrapped them in cloth, and placed them around her. Then he mixed special compounds from her medical kit with hot water, creating a drink that she had explained would help her body produce more heat. "Drink this slowly," he instructed, supporting her head. As the night progressed, Han stayed awake, constantly rotating the stones and maintaining the fire. He used his own body heat when necessary, sitting beside her and sharing his thermal blanket when her temperature dropped dangerously low. By morning, Ta had stabilized. She looked at Han, who had fallen asleep sitting upright beside her bed, his hand still resting on her wrist where he had been monitoring her pulse. "You've sacrificed your rest for me," she said when he woke. "Why?" Han rubbed his tired eyes. "That's what people do. We help each other." Later that day, as Han prepared a meal from preserved supplies, Ta examined the books on his small shelf. "You have physical books," she noted with surprise. "Zenithians haven't used physical knowledge storage for centuries." Han stirred the pot of stew. "Some things are worth keeping in physical form. If your technology fails, where does your knowledge go?" Ta considered this. An interesting point. Our dependence on systems has become complete. She picked up a manual on wilderness survival. "You study how to live without technology." "It's not about rejecting technology," Han explained. "It's about not being helpless without it. Balance is important." That evening, as they shared the meal Han had prepared, Tai asked questions about Earth's cultures, history, and geography. Han answered as best he could, sometimes using his old atlas to show her different regions. "Your species is so diverse," she marveled. "Zenithians evolved toward uniformity. We prized consistency and predictability. Humans are messy," Han agreed. "We fight, we make mistakes, we learn slowly sometimes. But we adapt, we survive." A loud crack outside interrupted their conversation. Han moved to the window cautiously. "What is it?" Tai asked. "Tree branch broke under the snow weight," he explained. "Happens during heavy storms." Tai's translator device suddenly emitted a soft peep. "Emergency power failing," she read from the display. "It needs to recharge." Han nodded. "We'll manage. I'm learning your gestures, and you're picking up my language quickly." When the translator went dark, they sat in silence for a moment. Then Han began pointing to objects and saying their names slowly. Tad repeated after him, her musical voice transforming English words into something hauntingly beautiful. By midnight, they had established a basic communication system combining simple English words, gestures, and drawings. Ta proved to be a quick study, her memory far superior to a human's. Miles above them, in orbit around Earth, King Jun stood on the bridge of the royal vessel that had arrived in response to the Queen's distress signal. His face was tight with worry as he studied the sensor readings. "The storm is interfering with our scans," reported the science officer. "We can detect the shuttle's crash site, but the Queen's life signs are moving. She appears to be in a structure several kilometers away." "Is she alive?" King Jun demanded. "Yes, Your Majesty. But her vital signs show evidence of recent stress." "Prepare a rescue team," ordered the king. "We will retrieve her immediately." The science officer hesitated. "The atmospheric conditions make teleportation dangerous, Your Majesty, and our ships cannot land safely in this weather. We must wait for the storm to pass." King Jun slammed his fist against the console. "My queen is stranded among primitives. Every moment increases the danger." "The sensors indicate she is not alone," the officer added carefully. "There appears to be a human with her. A human." The king's expression darkened with concern. "Begin preparations. The moment this storm clears, we retrieve our queen from this backward planet." Back in the cabin, unaware of the rescue plans forming above them, Han and Ta continued their improvised language lessons as the fire crackled warmly and snow piled higher outside, temporarily sealing them off from both of their worlds. The fifth morning since the crash brought clear skies. Han woke early and checked on Queen Ta, who slept peacefully in her hammock bed. Her recovery had progressed remarkably over the past 2 days. The color of her silvery skin had improved, and most of her wounds were healing cleanly. Han moved quietly to the window. The snow had stopped, leaving a pristine white blanket over the forest. He noticed unusual tracks circling the cabin, too large for foxes, but not quite like wolf prints either. Something had been prowling around their shelter during the night. Outside, Han collected fresh snow to melt for water. The air was crisp and still. As he worked, he spotted movement at the forest edge. He froze, watching as a large animal emerged from between the trees. It resembled a wolf but was considerably larger, with unusual markings along its flanks. Han retreated slowly to the cabin, keeping his eyes on the creature. Inside, he found Tai awake and attempting to stand unassisted. "We have visitors," he said, gesturing toward the window. "Local wildlife. But they're acting strangely." Tai moved carefully to look outside. 3 more of the wolf-like creatures had joined the first, all circling the perimeter of the clearing around the cabin. Their behavior was methodical, almost like a search pattern. "They are drawn to something," Tai observed, her English improving daily. "My equipment, perhaps." Han nodded. "I think you're right. Your shuttle's energy signature or your medical devices might be attracting them." He retrieved his rifle from the gun cabinet, checking it thoroughly before loading it. "You will kill them?" Tai asked, watching his movements. "Only if necessary," Han replied. "I'd rather scare them off. This is their territory, after all." Tai's expression showed confusion. "On my world, we would eliminate such threats without hesitation." "Different approaches," Han said with a slight smile. "These animals aren't evil. They're just curious or hungry. Killing them might bring more problems." He explained how predator deaths could disrupt local ecosystems or attract scavengers, potentially creating more dangerous situations. Tai listened intently, asking occasional questions that revealed her scientific background. By midday, the pack had grown to 6 animals. They had moved closer to the cabin, sniffing the air and pawing at the snow where Tai's medical equipment had been briefly placed outside for solar recharging. "Your technology is definitely what interests them," Han said, observing their behavior. "They keep returning to that spot." Tai nodded. "My medical scanner emits a low-frequency energy field. Many species can sense such emissions. We need to create a diversion," Han decided. "Give them something else to focus on." Using components from Tai's damaged equipment and some household chemicals, Han constructed several small devices that would emit similar energy signatures. Tai watched with growing respect as he adapted her advanced technology using simple tools and materials. "Your solution is unexpected," she admitted. "A Zenithian would have attempted to upgrade the technology, not repurpose it." Han shrugged. "Sometimes you need to work with what's available instead of wishing for what you don't have." As dusk approached, Han prepared to implement his plan. He would place the decoy devices in a trail leading away from the cabin, hopefully drawing the predators after them. "This is dangerous," Ta stated as Han prepared to go outside. "Let me help." Han hesitated. "You're still recovering." "I am well enough," she insisted. "Two work faster than one." Together, they stepped outside into the fading light. The wolf creatures immediately tensed, watching their every move. Han signaled for Tai to stay close as they began placing the decoys in the snow. They had set 4 devices when the largest animal suddenly lunged forward. Han pushed Ta behind him, raising his rifle but not firing. Instead, he made himself appear larger and shouted forcefully. The creature hesitated, confused by the display. "Back away slowly," Han instructed Ta. "Keep moving toward the cabin." The pack began to circle them, cutting off their direct path back to safety. Han remained calm, positioning himself between the animals and the alien queen. When one creature darted forward, Han fired a warning shot into the air. The sound echoed through the trees, causing the animals to flinch but not retreat. "They are too interested in your energy signature," Han realized. "Your presence is overriding their caution." In a swift decision, Han handed Tai the remaining decoy devices. "When I create a distraction, run straight to the cabin. Don't stop for anything." Before she could protest, Han moved suddenly to the side, firing another shot and shouting. The pack's attention shifted to him, allowing Ta to move quickly toward the cabin. 2 of the creatures noticed her movement and changed direction to intercept her. Han whistled sharply, throwing one of his emergency flares directly in their path. The sudden burst of bright light and heat caused the animals to recoil. Tai reached the cabin safely and turned to see Han now surrounded by the pack. With calculated movements, Han began activating the remaining decoys, tossing them in different directions. The confused predators followed the signals, creating openings in their circle. Han used each opportunity to move closer to the cabin, until finally making a dash for the door that Tai held open. Once inside, they watched through the window as the pack eventually followed the decoy trail into the forest, away from the cabin. "Your strategy worked," Ta said, a note of admiration in her voice. "You controlled their behavior without advanced weapons." Han checked his rifle before returning it to the cabinet. Understanding how they think is more useful than having the biggest gun. Later that night, as they sat by the fire, Ta's translator device suddenly activated with an incoming signal. Text scrolled across its small screen. "My people have entered your planet's orbit," she translated for Han. "They are searching for me." Han felt an unexpected pang of emotion. "That's good news. You'll be able to return home soon." Tay's expression was difficult to read. "Yes, King Jun leads the rescue himself." She paused, studying Han's face. "You have been kind to me. This is rare among species." "Not as rare as you might think," Han replied. Unknown to them both, another threat was approaching. Aboard the royal vessel, Commander Q stood in a shadowed corner of the communication center, sending encrypted messages to 3 elite soldiers who had secretly transported to Earth's surface. "The Queen must not return," his message read. "Her scientific findings about Earth could disrupt our entire social order. Complete your mission before the King's official rescue team deploys." The 3 Zenithian assassins received their orders as they moved silently through the snow-covered forest, advanced weapons charged and ready. Their thermal sensors had already located the cabin where their queen had taken refuge with the human. Back in the cabin, Han suddenly tensed, years of military training alerting him to a subtle change in the environment. "Something's wrong," he whispered, moving to dim the lantern. "Those aren't animal movements outside." Ta listened intently. "You are right. Those are Zenithian stealth patterns. Friends of yours?" Han asked, retrieving his rifle once more. Tay's expression turned grave. "No. My husband would announce himself formally. These are unauthorized visitors." "Then we have a problem," Han said quietly, checking the windows and doors. "Because whoever they are, they've surrounded us completely." Han moved swiftly through the darkened cabin, extinguishing all light sources except for the faint glow of dying embers in the fireplace. Queen Ta watched his practiced movements with growing concern. "3 individuals approaching from different directions," Han whispered, peering through a small gap in the window covering. "Their movement patterns are too coordinated to be random." Tai activated her translator device, keeping the screen brightness at its lowest setting. "If they are Zenithian, they will have thermal imaging. Darkness will not hide us." Han nodded, already thinking ahead. "Then we need to create multiple heat signatures." He moved to the kitchen area, filling several containers with hot water from the kettle he kept on the stove. "Who would want to harm you?" "The Scientific Council opposed my Earth expedition," Tai explained, her voice low. "My findings could challenge Zenithian superiority doctrines. Some would prefer I never return with such knowledge." Han placed the hot water containers in strategic locations around the cabin. "Political problems are the same everywhere, it seems." He returned to Ta's side, handing her a heavy jacket. "Can you move quickly if needed?" "Yes," she replied, though her injured leg still caused her pain. "What is your plan?" "There's a root cellar beneath the floorboards," Han explained, moving aside a small rug to reveal a trapdoor. "It connects to a narrow tunnel that leads to a storage shed about 50 meters from the cabin. It was built during Prohibition, for smuggling alcohol." Ta looked impressed. "You have escape routes in your dwelling. Perhaps humans are not so primitive after all." A soft electronic hum became audible outside. the distinct sound of Zenithian weapons powering up. Han recognized the tactical approach immediately. They were preparing to strike simultaneously from multiple angles. "Time to go," Han said, lifting the trapdoor. "Stay close to me." They descended into the dark cellar just as the cabin windows illuminated with the glow of energy weapons. Han guided Tai through the narrow earthen tunnel, supporting her when her injured leg threatened to give way. The sound of splintering wood and explosive impacts echoed behind them as the assassins breached the cabin. "They will realize we fled quickly," Ta whispered as they crawled through the tunnel. "That's counting on it," Han replied. "But they won't know where we've gone." They emerged in the small storage shed that stood partly concealed by evergreen trees. Han carefully pushed open the door, scanning the area before helping Tai outside. The night was clear and cold, moonlight reflecting brilliantly off the snow. "We need to reach higher ground," Han said, pointing toward a ridge in the distance. "If your people are searching for you, that's our best chance of being spotted." They moved through the forest as quickly as Tai's condition allowed, using the trees for cover. Behind them, flashes of light indicated the assassins had discovered their absence and were beginning to search the surrounding area. "Your king?" Han asked as they climbed steadily upward. "Will he have a way to detect you specifically?" Ta nodded, touching a small device embedded in her collar. "Royal identifiers. They emit unique signatures that only royal vessels can track." "Then that's what we need to protect," Han decided. "Those assassins will be looking for that signal too." They reached a small plateau halfway up the ridge where the trees thinned out. Han helped Ta sit against a large boulder while he surveyed their situation. The assassins had split up, their lights visible as they methodically searched outward from the cabin. "We need to keep moving," Han said. "But first," he removed his emergency kit from his pocket and took out a small mirror and a flashlight. Using Ta's royal identifier as a guide, he created a simple signaling device that would reflect and amplify her royal signature toward the sky. "Ingenious," Ta remarked, watching his hands work. "You create technology from almost nothing." "Just tricks we learn in survival training," Han replied modestly. "Sometimes the simplest solutions work best." He placed the device on the boulder, angled toward the clear night sky. "This should help your people find us faster." He checked his watch. "We need to keep those assassins busy while your signal reaches your ship." A beam of energy suddenly struck the tree beside them, sending splinters flying. Han pulled Ta down just as another shot passed overhead. "They've spotted us," he said, quickly assessing their options. "We need to separate." "No," Ta protested. "You cannot face them alone." "I'm not planning to face them," Han explained, helping her to her feet. "I'm going to confuse them. Their technology might be advanced, but I know this terrain better than anyone." He pointed to a rock formation further up the ridge. "Head there. Stay hidden. I'll draw them away and circle back to you." Before she could object further, Han moved into the open, deliberately exposing himself to the assassins before dashing into the trees in the opposite direction from Ta's escape route. As he predicted, energy beams followed his path, ignoring the Queen. Han moved with the confidence of someone intimately familiar with every tree and rock. He used natural features to shield himself, creating false trails and doubling back in patterns designed to frustrate his pursuers. The Zenithian assassins, despite their advanced technology, found themselves challenged by the unpredictable terrain and Han's knowledge of it. Meanwhile, high above Earth, King Jun studied the sensor readings with growing impatience. "There," exclaimed the royal technician. "We've detected the Queen's identifier signal. It's being broadcast from a ridge approximately 3 kilometers from the crash site." "Lock onto those coordinates," King Jun commanded. "Prepare the rescue team immediately." Commander Q stepped forward, his expression carefully controlled. "Your Majesty, our scans indicate potential danger in that area. Allow me to send an advance team to secure the location." King Jun's eyes narrowed. "No, Commander. I will lead this rescue personally." He turned to his loyal guards. "Prepare my transport." Back on Earth, Han had managed to draw two of the assassins deep into the forest, leaving only one searching near Taz's position. He circled back, moving silently through the underbrush until he spotted the remaining Zenithian approaching the rock formation where Taz was hiding. Han picked up a stone and threw it deliberately to create a distraction. The assassin turned toward the sound, giving Han the opportunity to rush forward. The Zenithian assassin fired his energy weapon, but Han had already anticipated the move and dropped to the ground. Before the assassin could fire again, Han tackled him, sending them both tumbling down a snow-covered slope. The assassin was physically stronger, but Han used the terrain to his advantage. They crashed into a fallen tree, the impact knocking the weapon from the Zenithian's hand. Han immediately kicked it away and rolled to his feet, assuming a defensive stance. "Your primitive combat skills are useless against Zenithian training," the assassin said in surprisingly good English. Han didn't waste breath responding. He feinted left, then delivered a powerful right hook that connected with the assassin's jaw. The Zenithian stumbled backward, clearly shocked that a human could move so quickly. The fight was brief but intense. The assassin's technical fighting style was no match for Han's practical combat experience. Within minutes, Han had rendered the Zenithian unconscious using a chokehold he'd learned during his military service. Han quickly bound the assassin with cord from his emergency kit and returned to Taz's hiding place. She emerged from behind the rocks, her silver eyes wide with concern. "You're injured," she said, noticing blood on Han's temple. "Just a scratch," he assured her. "But we need to move. The other two will realize their friend is missing soon." A sudden bright light from above stopped them both. A beam of pure white energy descended from the sky, illuminating the area around them. Han instinctively moved to protect Taz, but she placed a hand on his arm. "It's all right," she said, relief evident in her voice. "That's a royal transport beam. Jun has found us." As the light intensified around them, Han looked up to see a magnificent vessel hovering above the ridge. The rescue had arrived, but the night's dangers were far from over. The remaining assassins were still out there, and Han knew that greater challenges awaited Queen Taz once she returned to her people with what she had learned about humanity. The transport beam enveloped Han and Queen Taz in a column of white light. Han felt weightless as they ascended toward the massive Zenithian royal vessel hovering silently above the forest. Taz's hand rested lightly on his arm, a reassuring gesture that somehow bridged their vastly different worlds. They materialized in a grand chamber filled with technology that made Han's eyes widen. Zenithians in ornate uniforms surrounded them, their silver faces showing various degrees of shock at the sight of a human aboard their ship. Taz, a tall figure, pushed through the crowd, his elaborate clothing and commanding presence identifying him instantly as royalty. King Jun rushed forward, stopping just short of embracing his queen, instead performing a formal gesture with his six-fingered hands. "My king," Taz responded, performing the same gesture but with a warmth that transcended the formality. "I am well, thanks to this human." All eyes turned to Han, who stood awkwardly in his weathered outdoor clothes, still bearing scratches and bruises from his fight with the assassin. "This is Han," Queen Taz continued, speaking in English for his benefit, while her translator converted her words to Zenithian for the others. "He saved my life multiple times." King Jun approached Han, studying him with intense silver eyes. "Our scans showed you fighting one of our kind to protect the queen," he said, his translator giving his words a mechanical quality. "Few beings would risk themselves against Zenithian technology." "Anyone would have helped," Han replied simply. The king's expression showed doubt. "Not anyone. Certainly not most Zenithians." He turned to his guards. "Secure the remaining assassins on the surface. I want them alive for questioning." A medical team approached to examine Queen Taz, but she waved them back. "First, we must properly welcome our guest and acknowledge his service. Han requires medical attention as well." Han noticed several officials exchanging uncomfortable glances at the idea of treating a human with royal medical resources. One advisor stepped forward, his elaborate collar marking him as a high-ranking official. "Your Majesty, protocol dictates that primitive species remain in quarantine facilities," he stated firmly. Queen Tay's expression hardened. This primitive defeated 3 armed Zenithian assassins, using nothing but knowledge and resourcefulness. "You will show proper respect, Commander Q." The commander bowed stiffly, but Han noticed a flash of something dangerous in his eyes. Later, after both Han and Ta had received medical treatment, they were summoned to the royal chamber. Han had been provided with clean clothes that somehow adjusted to fit his human proportions perfectly. The garments were more comfortable than anything he had ever worn. The royal chamber was breathtaking, a vast space with transparent walls showing the stars and earth below them. King Jun sat on an elevated platform, with officials arranged in precise formations before him. Han and Tai were directed to stand in the center. The assassination attempt was orchestrated by members of our scientific council, King Jun announced. "Commander Q has been implicated as the leader of this conspiracy. His associates have confessed." Murmurs rippled through the assembled Zenithians. The king continued, "They feared the Queen's research would undermine our foundational beliefs about primitive species and technological supremacy." Queen Ta stepped forward. "And they were right to fear it," she declared boldly. "My observations of Earth, and particularly my experience with Han, have revealed serious flaws in our understanding." She activated a holographic display showing data from her research. "Humans have developed along a different evolutionary path than we predicted. While technologically behind us, their adaptability and resourcefulness exceed our models by factors of thousands." The display shifted to show images of Han's cabin, the improvised medical treatments, and the simple but effective tools he had created from her damaged equipment. "Han kept me alive using methods our medical computers would consider obsolete," she explained. "When Zenithian assassins with advanced weapons attacked, he defeated them using knowledge of terrain and basic strategy." King Jun nodded thoughtfully. "I witnessed his combat through our sensors. It was illuminating." Han stood quietly, uncomfortable being the center of such attention. When invited to speak, he chose his words carefully. "Your technology is impressive," he acknowledged. "But technology can fail. When it does, what remains is your knowledge, your adaptability, and your will to survive." One elderly counselor scoffed. "Zenithian technology does not fail." "Your queen's shuttle failed," Han pointed out gently. "Her medical devices failed. The assassin's tracking systems failed in the forest." The chamber fell silent as his words sank in. Queen Ta seized the moment. "I propose a revolutionary change in our approach to other species. Rather than measuring advancement solely by technological achievement, we should consider adaptability, resilience, and creative problem-solving." The holographic display shifted again, showing Earth's diverse ecosystems and cultures. Humanity has survived ice ages, pandemics, and countless disasters without the unified technology we possess. Their diversity of approaches is their strength, not their weakness. King Jun rose from his seat, a gesture that immediately silenced all whispers in the chamber. "My queen's experience has revealed dangerous complacency in our civilization. We have grown dependent on systems that can fail. This human," he gestured toward Han, "has demonstrated that there are other paths to advancement." The king approached Han directly. "I am told you are a park ranger on your world. What does this role entail?" Han explained his job protecting wilderness areas and helping people safely experience nature. The concept seemed to fascinate the Zenithians, many of whom had never experienced uncontrolled environments. "Would you consider serving as Earth's first representative to the Zenithian Empire?" King Jun asked. "We have much to learn from your perspective." Han was speechless momentarily. "I'm just one human," he finally said. "There are billions of us with different skills and knowledge." "Precisely why you would be valuable," Queen Tai interjected. "You understand this diversity. You could help us understand it too. The following days passed in a blur of diplomatic discussions and technological marvels. Han was given tours of the royal vessel, each revelation more astonishing than the last. Yet he noticed how the Zenithians struggled with simple tasks when their automated systems were unavailable. During one demonstration, a power fluctuation disabled the food preparation systems. The Zenithian staff stood helplessly before the darkened consoles. Han stepped forward and showed them how to prepare a simple meal using the raw ingredients and basic heat sources, a skill every human child learned, but that had been lost to centuries of Zenithian automation. 1 month later, Han stood beside Queen Tai and King Jun as they addressed the Grand Zenithian Council. The chamber was filled with representatives from across their vast empire, many viewing the proceedings through holographic projections. Today marks the beginning of the Human-Zenithian Alliance, King Jun announced formally. Based not on technological exchange, but on cultural and methodological diversity. Queen Tai unveiled her new educational initiative, the Adaptation Institute, where Zenithians would learn Earth survival skills alongside humans who would study Zenithian science. Han had helped design the curriculum, incorporating elements from Earth's diverse cultures. Our civilizations took different evolutionary paths, she explained to the council. Neither superior, both valuable. Together, we become stronger. As the council session ended, Han gazed out at the stars through the chamber's transparent ceiling. Queen Ta joined him, following his gaze. Your cabin was smaller but had a better view, she remarked with the hint of a smile. Sometimes the simplest things are the most beautiful, Han replied. A very human perspective, she noted. One we need desperately. King Jun approached them, holding a small device. The first Adaptation Institute will be constructed near your forest, Han, if you agree. Han thought about his quiet life as a park ranger, now transformed into something he could never have imagined. Like the forest after a storm, change brought both destruction and new growth. I agree, he said simply, on one condition. Name it, the king responded. We preserve the forest exactly as it is, Han said firmly. Your technology works around nature, not over it. Queen Tai and King Jun exchanged glances, then nodded in unison. Perhaps, said the queen, that is the first lesson we needed to learn.